So welcome to Australis Fishing on YouTube. My name's Jim and all views in my videos are my own and based on experience rather than assumption. What we're going to do today is we're going to be tying a freshwater fly that I haven't been able to tie for about 20 years, but it was, if not one of the most productive flies that I've ever fished with. The hooks that we're going to be using today are Gamakatsu panfish hooks. Now the reason why I'm tying these is I tie a lot of flies for bream, and these panfish hooks are designed for an American species of fish, but their design and their functionality can overlap to Australian waters. So these are 4 times strong. They're in a size 2. They have the straight eye with the perfect bend, okay? And I tend to try and fish for larger specimens, so my hooks usually I use are between 2s and 4s, okay? So without further ado, we'll just put one of these in the vise, okay, and we'll start. So the fly that I'm going to tie today is one that I haven't been able to tie for years because I haven't been able to get my hands on the feathers to tie it with, okay? Now look, when I tie flies, I always tie flies with a bed of thread, okay? So with this, what I always do is, and I'm going to tie this fly with red thread because I always seem to have better results with red thread. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to do a nice even bed of fly tying thread there, okay? Now notice the spacing on this. When I finish tying the knot, it's going to line up perfectly with the barb there, see? So as you can see there, that thread is smack bang on the barb. Okay, so after much deliberation, originally I was going to call this fly the blood ginger, but it's probably a bit rough for such a nice fly to fish with. Okay, so this fly seems to work better in the afternoons when you've got that low light as the sun's starting to slowly drop behind the trees. So the fly that we're going to be tying today, I've renamed the Zeus Sunset Fly. So with that, Zeus is named after my Golden Pheasant male bird, right? And he's the one that we got the feathers from when I ripped off his tail by accident. So the method behind this fly is, in our West Australian waterways, we have a lot of redfin perch, okay? So with those redfin perch, they provide a very good food source for a lot of the fish that are in the waterways. So the main fish that you catch with this fly, from my experience, and remember I only have 3 species of fish that I can catch in our waterways, because Western Australia has no natural freshwater species of any sport fishing value, okay? So we can only catch rainbow trout, brown trout, and redfin perch. Now, believe it or not, this fly here, the main fish that you catch on this fly is brown trout. For some reason, they just seem to love this fly. And believe it or not only can you fish with this fly in the afternoon or the evening, okay, and as the sun's, dropping behind the trees, on 30 or 40 degree days, middle of the day, the peak heat of the day, you'll catch a lot of big brown trout on this fly, and I don't know why. So the most likely fish that you're going to catch on this is brown trout and redfin perch. More than likely brown trout, then redfin perch. Now, the rainbow trout don't seem to favour it too much in this configuration with the golden pheasant feathers, but if you tie this same fly in a variation with black feathers, because in our waterways for some reason brown trout will hit green, olive and brown flies, rainbow trout will hit black, red and white flies, and I mean redfin will usually hit anything as long as it's got a little bit of red in it, okay? So what I've done here is I just got as you could see, one red marabou feather. Now with that, you can tie this fly with chenille. You can also tie this with, you know, ribbing underneath and that sort of stuff, but this is done in the same styling as the New Zealand trout fly known as the Mrs. Simpson. Okay, and with that, it's a really good way to tie your flies, and they catch a lot of fish. One thing that I'm surprised with, I'm surprised that America hasn't sort of started using the New Zealand trout flies, because they know what they're doing, right? And even though we've tried to claim it in Australia as our own, okay, it's not our own, right? The Mrs. Simpson was named after the female that the king, what did he do? Was it abducted his crown or whatever? So yeah, a lot of history with it too. Okay, so what we do here is we start from the back, work to our front, and then we go from the front, work to our back. What this means is we have a really good base on this fly to just bind it with the red thread, and it gives us a nice coating around the shank of the hook. That is about the length of the hook shank, which is how your proportions go. I'll do another video on proportions on YouTube one day for fly tying. Now, normally with this fly, if you buy these flies tied by professional shops, what they'll do, okay, is they'll put one feather either side, and you've got 6 feathers on the whole fly. Because we're tying this fly for ourselves, what we're going to do is we're going to do 2 pairs of feathers at the back, 2 pairs of feathers in the middle, and then a pair of 3 feathers at the head. So what happens is when water's flowing over the fly, okay, the front will be the thickest part, and it tapers back to the tail, which will make sure that the marabou wiggles much like a tail of a fish. All right, now as you can see here, when I first finished, I was in line with the barb. Now I'm marking off my first point, I'm just in front of the point. Give yourself 1 or 2 mil from the point whenever you're tying your flies, that way you won't snap your thread. Okay, so what we have here now is we have some wonderful golden pheasant feathers. Never throw this away, save that, put it in a blender and turn it into dubbing. Just make sure your wife, or if you're not married yet, your partner, or if you're quite young, your mum doesn't see you doing it, because it does make a mess of it. Now see that there? When you use feathers from real birds, as in this case, right? See how beautifully that just sits? And it's just an absolute joy to tie flies with. See that? So straight away, all we've got to do is make sure that we match up everything. And what we've got is we've got a really nice fly that's going to take shape. Now these feathers, I bought a mating pair of golden pheasants, right? Zeus and Zoe. And with that, the first night I had him, he was a bit panicky, and I went to grab him, and I somehow managed to latch onto his tail by mistake. And needless to say, he was feeling a bit inadequate for a while when he didn't have a tail. But he grew it back, and he's all good now. Okay, so what we have here, that's lovely. So what we have is we have the darker hues of the feathers where they're brown merging into the orange and then into the golden with the red behind it. So that's fantastic. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to half hitch here, so that locks our feathers in place. Once they're locked in place, they can't go anywhere. Okay, and then from there, what we're going to do is we're just going to keep binding on the feather stems, right? Just so we can make sure that this fly's got a bit of body about it. And see how all the feathers ended up on top of the stem? That's perfect. Right, chuck that in there. Now what we've got to do is we've got to put our second set of paired feathers on here. And what I'm going to try and do is I'm just going to try and find the smallest feather. So that's another small one that we can use in that area. That's going to be a larger one for the front, but we'll still dress that, and I'll show you how to do that. That's another larger one for the front. With natural feathers, you know, that's a left or a right. You don't really get that from the ones that you buy, because they like to, I think they sometimes like to load you up with feathers that are a bit average. Here we go, beautiful, lovely, there we are. All right, and here are some more. So Yeah, I find you can only really tie this fly with golden pheasant feathers just for the colour combination, okay? Luckily, I have, them in my backyard, because if not, a small packet of golden pheasant feathers like this is sometimes between $10 and $15, and you'll probably get 8 to 10 feathers in them. All right, now that's too big. Now remember, when you're tying freshwater flies, it's a game of millimetres. It's not like saltwater fly where you can sort of be a bit more blasé and just throw things around a bit and they sort of still turn out. So what I did is I removed about 4 of the feathers, what do they call them? Not cuticles. The strands of the feathers. And now what we've got is we've got a pair of feathers that line up pretty well. Now, the secret to this is make sure they don't extend past the feathers at the back. Right, so then we do this, like so. Beautiful. All right, that's lovely, okay. Finally getting excited about fly tying again. All right, and now what we've got to do is we've got to just put another 2 on the other side, okay. Like so. Yeah. It's a rare luxury when you've got real feathers because they're just so much more natural. With your fly tying, your materials can be broken down into a couple of types. You've got artificial materials, which are made by man, okay, and then you've got natural materials, which are obviously made by nature. Now, with fly tying, a lot of the fly ties were responsible for birds becoming extinct, just for the demand of their feathers, okay? And the good thing about this, what they don't tell you, is golden pheasants will lose all their feathers once a year when they molt, and then they grow back, okay? And then when they grow back, alrighty, you've got to just wait another year, but you do get a lot of feathers from them, okay? So that way, the good thing about this is nothing has to die so that we can tie our flies. Now, the main difference too is when you've got natural materials, whether it's fur, feathers or whatever, the stems on the inside are usually hollow. No, we're going to take a couple more out there. They're usually hollow. All right, so what we have is we have a beautifully streamlined fly. Okay, now one thing I want to do is I just want to add a little bit of flash to this, okay? Now with this flash I can either add pink, but what I'm going to do is I'm just going to add a little bit of this rainbow flash, nothing too serious, right? But just to give it a little bit more of a attraction about it, because all you're trying to do is you're trying to tie a fly that imitates a bait fish so that you trigger a predatory response, okay, in the fish that you're chasing, which sounds pretty simple on paper, right? But yeah, unfortunately with that sort of thing, sometimes it just stays on paper, if you know what I mean. And what this does is this just gives it a little bit of a flash. So when you're fishing with the fly, right, and it turns in the sun and all the rest of it with a little bit of flash on it, what it does, it'll just shimmer and so you just send out little bits of light that look like a bait fish, like fleeing on its side. Right, there we are. So there's just a little bit of rainbow flash in there. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to tie that off. Now this is the important bit. We're going to tie the front, okay? So with this, what I'm going to do is, got a little bit of an issue here, okay? So one of the rules of fly tying is you never ever tie off over the eye. So everything has to be done behind the eye. So what I'm going to do is, I'm just going to get that to taper, like so. I'm going to start this about, I would say 2 to 3 mil from the eye, boom, like that. And then what we're going to do is from there, okay, I'm going to put the 3 feathers that go over the front. Right, now the good thing is I'm using red thread. I've got red marabou on the bottom, so what I'm going to have is, if a fish is swimming underneath this fly, which is usually what happens, okay, all it'll see is the feathers moving, the marabou moving, it'll see the red underneath, it'll think, oh, this is a fish that's injured, so it's fleeing, okay, and then whoompa, out of nowhere, it'll just go in and sort of bite it, if you know what I mean, and that's what you want it to do. So let's just get rid of a little bit of that head cement, okay. Now, what we've got to do, now see these really big feathers, right, they're too big for the fly. That one's going to be way too big. See how that's got that little sort of mottled effect there? If we can get a couple to match up on this, right, let's get another one. And even with the golden pheasant feathers, see how you've got different variations depending on which part of the body it comes from, okay? So let's just do that. And like I said, I developed this pattern about, oh God, I'd say a good 30 years ago, and it caught a lot of fish, right? Especially in the Donnelly for some reason. Don't know why it caught so many fish in the Donnelly, but anyway. And what it does is it just gives you another option, okay? It's not a fly that you'll see in books. It's just one that's worked over the years, okay? And I mean, we have a much different biomass for our insect life and fauna in our waterways, okay, compared to other parts of the world. Other parts of the world are just so spoiled with what they have. I mean, we don't. So now what I'm going to do here is I'm going to plonk that there, right, like so. And what we've got 3 feathers in line. Now see that there? See how I'm trying to put that so that it finishes off at the eye of the fly. So let's just do a couple of gentle turns, right, like that. See that? Beautiful. That is beautiful, okay? Then what we do from here is just get our other feathers, and I'll show you what the whole fly looks like. Yeah, let's do that. Beautiful. You've got to remember, in nature, not all things are uniform, if you can understand where I'm coming from, okay? Nature is about imperfections, and then on top of those imperfections, you've just got to try and match it. So what I'll do is I'll show you how to dress the feathers. So see this here, with the stems that attach to the feather, you have the strands of the feather material. The ones closer to the body are thicker, and then you've got the little downy feathers and all that sort of stuff. So this is called dressing. So when you dress feathers, what you're doing is you're preparing them to go onto the fly, and you only use the ones that you want to use, okay? So see this here? What I'm going to do is I'm going to pinch those because I've got them at the same length. Then I'm going to sort of just pick this about here. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to rip all these feathers off there. Look at that. What that does is we can save that for dubbing and that sort of stuff. Golden pheasant feathers are a beautiful light feather. I think even though, they're not, because they're not like water animals and that sort of stuff, like ducks, their feathers are still reasonably, water resistant, because they are able to survive snow in the southern China rainforests, okay? Voila. So what we've got here now is we've got the other side, right? So we're just going to bring that in here like so. Why is that being difficult? Probably because there we go, like that. There we go. Lovely. Okay, so what we've done is we've constructed the fly. Now what I'm going to do is 1, 2, 3. Now see how that's formed a taper on the head, right? I've just got to be careful here, because what I want to do is you never ever tie off your half hitch on the material of a fly, because it'll cause it to like spread open, okay? So what we'll do now is just going to cut these stems off. Now see how they're all, some of them are on the top of the hook, some of them aren't. So This is very important. What we've got to do now is we've got to tie this fly off. So nice, small, compact head like that. Now, why is that there? That looks pretty good to me. We've got a couple of little ones on the side here. Right, let's just give them a bit of a haircut, says the guy with no hair. Right, now what we're going to do is we're just going to wind in here. Okay. And go again, not too big because you don't want to make it too bulky. That's not too bad for an amateur on my side. Okay, like so. And what I'll do is after the head cement dries, I'll just burn those feather stems off. So what we've done is we've tied a beautiful bulky little fly with 14 feathers because we're tying it for ourselves. Now this is going to move a lot of water. I think there's a lot of people in our stream who know that with that it's all about water flow. Okay, there we go. Now what I've done there is I've made the cardinal sin of getting head cement on the hook eye, but that's okay. What do we got here? Sure we got something we can clean it with. Said no one ever. Oh, here we go. Okay, so while the head's setting, just get this stem from a feather. What's the old saying? Birds of a feather stick together. Right. There we go. So you can actually leave that in there, right? So what'll happen is while you're leaving that in there, okay, it's just going to dry the head. That's turned out to be lovely. That is fantastic. Okay, now what we'll do is, I'll just bring that in here like this. Okay, so if you have a look at that, right, this is what it's going to look like, whoops, from front on. Okay, so what we've got there, once it dries, and we tease all these feathers out, we've got a beautiful little fly, right, that's going to move a lot of water. Don't worry about these little fibres sticking out, right, that's just where it's sort of bound incorrectly on the hook. There we go. Lovely. So this is going to move a lot of water, and the other good thing about this, if you have a look in here, okay, it's the same on the other side as what it was on the side that was facing you, right? You can just see where a little bit of head cement's gone there. And remember, don't worry about your flies not being perfect. Nothing in nature is perfect. That's the beauty of nature, the imperfection, okay? Now, the other important thing too, right, if you just have a look in here, underneath the fly, which is where most of your big fish will see that from, see how we have the red throat and the red head? So any large fish that's seeing that from underneath is thinking, oh, well, that's gills, or it's bleeding from its gills. And red-headed flies in freshwater, where I am in this neck of the woods, all right, they always fish better when I tie them with red heads, okay? I don't know whether it's because we've got so many redfin perch down here, but that's a beautiful fly. Like I said, I've caught a lot of fish on this, and then I couldn't get golden pheasant feathers, and that's the secret ingredient to this fly. So it's similar, well no, actually it's different, but if you're thinking of flies that you'd use at the same time, a Sloan sunset fly would work, but this is really good in the afternoons, okay? Those lovely golden hues from the sunlight in the late afternoon hitting at that right angle. If you draw this along weed beds or snags and that sort of stuff on the opposite bank from where the sun is shining, straight away it just lights up, okay? So there you go, that is the Zeus sunset fly. Zeus being the name of the golden pheasant that it came from, and sunset being the best time to fish it. And like I said to you, caught lots of big brown trout, redfin perch, not so many rainbow trout on this, but when you tie it with black feathers instead of the golden pheasant feathers, the rainbow trout seem to like it, okay? So thanks for watching, and if you like the content, don't forget to subscribe, And until next time, bye for now.